And we are back with the fourth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, we are going to be talking about more Cavs drama. Before I actually talk about the Cavs drama, there is a comment, and I would like to acknowledge it. It's from Lil Fettuccini yet again. Is Minnesota going to win one game? Well, I don't think so. The odds are very much stacked against them. So, for starters, they aren't going to be playing home in game 4. They're going to be playing away. And Kyrie is also undefeated in closeout games for his career. So, that's another narrative that's another sort of thing that they have to go up against, and a little stigma that they have to go up against. The fact that Kyrie is undefeated in closeout games. And with him being undefeated in closeout games, the odds are just so stacked against them. I'm not entirely sure if they have enough left in them to even win a single game in this series. And with how this is going to get swept under the rug a lot, maybe not until like the end of the series, but Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns have been playing some of the worst basketball I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, if you look at box plus minus, Karl Anthony Towns is minus 17 and Anthony Edwards is minus 19. That is really, really bad for the postseason. And Gobert, for all the hate that he gets for not being able to stop the pick and roll, he's plus 3 in box plus minus. So those two players are playing horribly in this playoff series. And if this trend continues, I don't really think they have enough in them to win the game in this series. Like, your two best scorers are shooting 37 to 111 together. That is bad. That is really, really bad. And there's really no other way around. There's no other way around, like, the fact that they're avoiding all of this criticism from the media is insane to me. Like, I have not, like, if this was Jason Tatum, God forbid if this was Jason Tatum, or if this was LeBron James, God forbid if this was LeBron James, they would not hear the end of it. The media would slander them to the death. Like, that is bad. Like, that there's no other way to put it. There's no other way to, like, say it. Like, there's no nice way to say it. There's no mean way to say it. It's just bad. Like, period, done. So I don't think they're going to win a single game. But that's my thought. So with that out of the way, we can go into the Cavs drama and explain exactly what I mean by this Cavs drama. So it's gotta be your guys' favorite segment now. That's the only news that's going on over the off season, aside from in the postseason, aside from the playoffs that are happening. And so going into the Cavs drama, there's obviously a narrative around Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell saying that Darius wants to get traded because he doesn't like playing with Donovan Mitchell. That's the narrative. That's what I thought. That's what a lot of people thought. That's what the story was in the beginning. But here we have Tony Pesta saying different. Now, he writes, once a narrative is planted, it can be impossible to uproot, and many believe that Darius Garland's disorderly 2023 to 2024 campaign is pinned on pairing him with Donovan Mitchell. And he says that this isn't really true. This would be a band-aid solution for a deeper issue in Garland's development. That's what he's saying. Garland had the best individual season of his career in his first year next to Mitchell, while his production marginally decreased. His efficiency and all-around impact improved. Garland was no longer strained by carrying an entire offense, as Mitchell's ability to draw a crowd paired nicely with Garland's talent for manipulating help defenders. Lineups featuring both of the guards posted a net rating of 8.9, which was in the 94th percentile in the NBA, in last season. So he says, we can pick gripes with the offense occasionally, resorting to a your turn, my turn play style, but having two dynamic guards who can dice up a defense in different ways is valuable. Even this past season, which was the worst Garland has looked since he was a rookie, The duo maintained a respectable plus 5.7 net rating, which is in the 81st percentile. When on the floor, it wasn't the two of them together that caused headaches, it was Garland's minutes without Mitchell that provided the migraines. So his argument is saying that the issue with Darius Garland wasn't the fact that he was playing with Mitchell, it was the fact that he wasn't playing with Mitchell, which is a very interesting dynamic to put out there, because normally when you aren't, at least with most of the duos, when you aren't getting that much production because of you being the second option, you aren't really, like, when you're not getting that many touches, forget about the word production. When you aren't getting that many touches, it makes it more difficult to reach that same level of production. But for Darius Garland, it seems to be the opposite, or he's claiming that it seems to be the opposite. The Cavs went 9-12 this season with Garland available, but not Mitchell. Those lineups held just a +1 net rating in the 57th percentile, and directly contradict the notion that Garland needs a new home to return to his former self. Now, Garland is hyper-reliant on his three-point shooting. He's an undersized guard who cannot put pressure on the rim. This is an easy problem for opposing defenses to solve. Even though his playmaking, Garland cannot always impact the game if his perimeter shot isn't falling. This made lineups without Mitchell juiceless in a season where Garland struggled more than usual to establish an offensive rhythm. This is all what he has to say. So Garland's trials this season include everything with a broken jaw to downright sloppiness. The least of Darius Garland's issues, however, was his backcourt running mate. Opportunities to dominate his role next to Mitchell were plentiful throughout the year. Garland's limitations are what held him back. So it's not a revelation to say that 6'1 guards don't carry NBA teams. Only a handful of players have accomplished such a feat in any meaningful capacity. This is why Cavs swung for a talent such as Mitchell in the first place, which, again, it makes sense, but it just hasn't really seemed to work. So the role presented itself to Garland all season. He played more without the ball, with his usage rate reaching a 3-year low and his assisted field goal attempts bordering on a career high. So these are, all of the things that keep happening while he's in the lineup with Donovan Mitchell. A fine line exists between actively working off the ball and deferring too much. Garland often did the latter by standing idle whenever he wasn't directly involved in the play. Which I don't see why there's a problem with that. It's just creating space and getting ready to shoot the ball. It makes total sense to stand idle and do that. But he is a gifted shooter, yet he finished in the bottom half of the league in catch-and-shoot three-point attempts with just 2.5 a game, which is probably why it seemed like he was just standing there doing nothing. The Cavs can't afford for Garland to be this inactive away from the ball, and neither can any team he could play for in the future. So it seems like really the biggest problem that Garland had was sort of coaching schemes and how the teams utilize him in the rotations and in the roster. So I sort of see that point, but at the same time, I really don't. Like, it was all down to, because at the end of the day, he admits to Garland being rather sloppy. And if Garland was being sloppy, then it would totally explain his play and how badly he performed. So I don't really, again, I think it's a little bit of a mix of both. I can see why the person who wrote this article made this argument in the first place. It is a very good argument. Like, I cannot deny that. It is a very good argument to saying that, Garland, he may have been rather rusty, but at the same time, the Cavs and the rotations and the schemes weren't utilizing Garland to the fullest extent. And it makes sense because there have been several, times in the history of basketball where certain players, they play better under a specific kind of system because of how the coach utilizes that player under that system. So there are times where it could work and there are times where it can't work. It depends on a lot of different factors, not only to how well the players play together and how they mesh, but also how well the coach coaches them together and how they mesh. So it's a lot of different things that add on to each other. And I don't like that light setting. Never mind. I'm just going to leave it like that. So with that, we are out of time for this fourth segment. So we will go ahead and go into the fifth and the final segment where I talk about Pascal Siakam and the potential signing of a max contract from the Pacers in the 2024 free agency. So I'll be right back after this short break. Stay tuned.